Hey folks, today I would like to talk about the horoscope of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary for Health and Human Services, under the Trump administration. So, long before he joined the Trump fold, Kennedy was a pretty renowned environmental lawyer, and he did probably more than anybody else in America to ensure clean air and water. For years, if not decades, he fought the coal industry and the nuclear power industry throughout America. And it wasn't just national interest. He went beyond the borders and assisted Canada and a number of South American countries, usually in alliance with indigenous representatives and other environmentalists. Over the years, he's had multiple political options to pursue. A couple of times he considered running as senator for New York, on the federal level, and at one point considered running as Attorney General for New York State. So some of these lesser roles he could have had, but he seemed to have always had his sights set on the ultimate prize, which is, presidency of the USA. But, over the years, he had become tainted. He was, convicted of heroin possession way back when, admittedly stemming from a very early flirtation, age 15, with heroin that lasted some, 15 years or something. To his credit, he went through rehab and came out clean. But, the stain was basically ineradicable. He was considered for some top environmental posts under the Obama administration, back when he was still a card-carrying Democrat. But, so much, opposition was anticipated in his vetting process that they declined to offer him that role. So fast forward to, the run for the presidency in 2024. And basically, he gave up the fight. And even after calling, Donald Trump, a loathsome human being, a threat to democracy, and a possible sociopath, he made a hard right turn, embraced Trump, and, influenced some swing voters and was rewarded for his efforts with this position in the administration. Okay, there's the history. Now let's have a look at his horoscope. Okay, so here's the horoscope for Robert F. Kennedy. Now, admittedly, this time, although it looks very specific, 1732, 5:32 p.m., it's Rodden rating C, which means it's anecdotal without any kind of paper evidence. Be that as it may, the specificity of it is promising, so let's just go on a wing and a prayer. First things first, Graha Avastas, dignities of the planets. Sun, ordinary in the 7th. Moon, bright, strong, near full moon in the 12th. Mars, ordinary in the 4th. Mercury, combust and afflicted in the 7th. Jupiter, bright in its retrograde phase, mild affliction from Mars in the 11th. Venus, also combust and afflicted in the 7th house. Saturn, exalted in the 4th house, although afflicted by Mars. Rahu, Ketu, both normal. Out of that, we get, a number of yogas. There's a Sun-Mercury yoga here forming a valid Buddha Ditya in the same sign together, aspect in the 1st house. Saturn forms one of the Pancha Mahapurusha yogas, that's Shasha Yoga. Saturn and Mars, respectively, lords of 7th and 5th, form a dharma-karma adipati yoga. That's kind of the most significant of the yogas. So, Saturn powerful in the 4th house. 4th house is environment, property, nationalism, etc. So very strong Saturn, which aspects the ascendant as well too. This is a bit of a legacy from his mother as well too. Very powerful 4th house occupant. And what else do we have after that? Well, we can embark upon a kind of a an analysis of, psychological profile of Kennedy, going through the standard things, the manas, the buddhi, the ahamkara for, the instinctual mind, the cognitive skills, and the ego. So considerations around the manas. Fourth house, it's occupied by Saturn, and although it's exalted, that is, an influence that's, somewhat negative vis-a-vis the functioning of, that the unconscious mind, the part of the mind that registers sense impressions, governs the autonomic functions of the body, and can be a precursor to a number of physiological ills and psychological ills. So that's just part of it. Saturn, powerful Saturn in the fourth house. The lord of the fourth house is Venus. It's in a sign of Saturn, which is also sort of a negative check mark as far as the state of the mind goes. And it's on the Rahu-Ketu axis. Both Saturn and the nodes are destabilizing forces, the crazy-making forces in the horoscope. So they both influence the Venus, the fourth lord, and Saturn alone influences the fourth house itself. Now, there is a parivartana going on there between Venus and Saturn in the fourth and the seventh, and that is helpful. Although even if Saturn had moved to the seventh house, it will still end up aspecting the fourth house. And if Venus is there, in a virtual, flip of the eye view, it would be influencing the Lord Venus as well, too. Then last but not least, there is the moon, in considering the manas. The moon is the karaka for the manas. And although the moon is bright, it is poorly placed in the 12th house, and it is in a Rahu nakshatra. And that's another one of those destabilizing influence. So overall, that can be a little bit problematic. Incidentally, the moon in the 12th house can be symptomatic, or symbolic, I guess is the better term, of addictions. That could be substance abuse. Second lord, sun, lies on the Rahu-Ketu axis. I mean, that's a check mark there for potential substance abuse. But moon in the 12th house, I mean, as they say, where goes the moon, there goes the mind. 12th house is, getting lost in some way or other, losing oneself, which, people who engage seriously in alcohol and drugs and other forms of substance abuse, they are, in a way, attempting to shed themselves of their identity. But the 12th house is also the domain of bed pleasures as well, too. And the moon, being his ascendant lord in the 12th house, can suggest a dominating interest in sexual pursuits. Well, Kennedy has been married 3 times, and he's known among his friends as a lifelong philanderer. His second wife committed suicide after discovering a diary of his in which he had documented affairs with 37 different women while he was with her. So, these are all instrumental to, the profile that we're creating here. Incidentally, Venus in the 7th house is an instance of Karako Bhavo Nashto. And of course, it's on the Rahu-Ketu axis. It's with the sun. It's aspected by Mars. And so all of these are, somewhat problematic in terms of, stable relationships. Anyway, back to the psychological profile. With Manas behind us, we can now look at the buddhi. That's in pretty, reasonable shape. Mercury is in a Kendra, although combust, it does form a Buddha Ditya Yoga, aspecting the ascendant. It is aspected by Mars, and that's not a bad thing because, Mars sharpens the intellect and can make a person, an aggressive advocate of one cause or another, which he certainly was with respect to his environmental passions. So the buddhi's okay. Although, Mercury's in the sign of Saturn, and Saturn can be, conservative or conspiratorial. Saturn and Mars together can also, indicates something of a conspiratorial zealot of sorts. But again, nothing terribly serious. Move on to an analysis of the ahamkara, the ego. So its representatives are, First Lord, Moon, which, as we've seen, has gone to the 12th house, in Twitchy Gemini, in a nakshatra of Rahu. And again, you get this notion of somebody, who can sort of, change gears easily, a certain ambivalence about positions and switching of loyalties. And again, an appeal for, the sort of offbeat, the bizarre sometimes, the non-traditional. With Rahu Ketu running through the first and the seventh house, this is a bit of a signature for, a rebel with or without a cause, a primitivist of some sort, a shamanistic in a way, invoking, sort of powers of the spirit, sometimes in, flagrant opposition to, institutional guardrails or practices or procedures, as evidenced in his long-standing campaign against vaccines, much of it without a lot of factual support, and a lot of it based upon, cherry picking of data and very selective reasoning and arguments around this, that, and the other thing. When he was appointed as Secretary of Health and Human Services, there were 75 Nobel laureates, scientists who opposed his nomination. Multiple 17,000 doctors, I think, signed a petition saying that, he would pose a threat to American health. And multiple organizations rallied also to oppose his nomination. But, it went ahead anyway, and now here we are. So a final issue around the ahamkara, the ego. The moon is one indicator of that. In the 12th house, in Gemini, in a Rahu nakshatra, a little bit irregular. The sun in a Saturn sign, aspected by Mars, again, can make for a very, vehement fighter, but again, a conservative. And because of sun's, position on the nodal axis too, there's a strong appeal for the non-traditional, the borderline, the, outside, beyond the pale kind of positions. And so, this rebel with or without a cause is something that suits him fairly well. So, it's a pretty dynamic chart, but it's charged with quite a few conflicting elements as well, too, that are going to challenge his role in the government and will, as a consequence, challenge America's healthcare. Already there are outbreaks of measles, something that was long considered extinct in America, but now because of vaccine suspicion and resistance, children are dying because of, somewhat reckless guidelines are now being established with both the FDA and the CDC. Anyway, it remains to be seen how this will play out. God bless us all. God save us all.